book artist. I write stories for children, and my stories are all based on real life experiences from my childhood in India. Because I'm an artist, I like to make the books look different and unusual, and the book itself becomes the illustration for the story, rather than just the standard picture books that children are exposed to. This is a storybook about Mangi, the very special goat, my mother's grandfather's pet goat. And I heard this story from my mother when I was 5 or 6. I made this little book about that story, and you see the house, my grandfather's house, that's how I remember it, with the big rose bush. If you open this up, you see that there's a window that you can look through. And in the back, through the window, you look into the courtyard because there's a goat sitting there. And the story is about the goat who ate the shirt from the clothesline. I think it's important for us to tell stories from our childhood to our children, or just stories telling them about the families, about the places we've been to, about our heritage, and how things are similar between cultures and how they are different. And I think that people will tell me, oh, I'm not an author, I can't write stories. But it is intimidating if you think of wanting to be published. But if you make a book on your own, for example, you fold some paper and you write some words in it, you can make a storybook for your child that has your own story in it. So I like to empower parents and grandparents and even children to think. Children do it all the time in school. But I like to encourage parents and grandparents to do this and to share stories from their lives. So the cool thing about being an artist is that you can decide what is an illustration or what is a picture. And a picture doesn't have to just only be inside the book. What if the book itself is a picture? For example, a book can be in a matchbox. Now, why should a book be in a matchbox? And that reason decides the design of my book. So this book, my teacher, when I was in 8th grade, she told us, go home, take a matchbox and sit out on the table, and then take one matchstick out of it, put it down, take out the next one, put it down, take out the other one, put it down, and so on till we had all the matchsticks on the table. And that's how I've made my book. So the pages of this storybook are not even bound, but you read them as I did actually take out the matchsticks. Well, the point of the storybook is she wanted us to work on our patience. And when I read this book to students in middle school, they'll all go, oh, come on, and the next, another page. And in the end, they realize that it was about patience, and they're kind of quiet. So my professional training is in graphic design, and I'm a designer. It was when I had my son, when he was 4 actually, and I realized that he would tell me that he was American and I was Indian. That's when I realized, how can I make him know a little bit more about India and my culture, or where I come from. And I know that I could design annual reports and stuff like that. So I thought, what if I wrote stories and designed little books that would be fun for him to read? So that's how I went about writing the stories for children. The first book I made was this one, and it opens up like this. I wanted it to be as interactive as possible. And this is actually how you open these old windows in houses in India, old houses, traditional. And the windows open up, and I put this paper in the background that kind of looks like a storm, like there's leaves and flowers flying around. And the book is called Kairis. And then I have a story within a story, which I made into a little house that you can pull out. And then you can just read this little story that's in there. And when I showed this to my son, he was, I think, 5 at the time. He really thought it was cool because he could, do these little tricks and pull the little house in. And I thought that, it might work, even if there's no pictures. Books like this might be interesting for kids. When I teach a workshop, the most important thing that I want people to get is, one, to get into the habit of sharing stories. And the other thing I want them to know is that making books is so easy that anybody can do it. You just take a sheet of paper and you fold it, and it becomes this really neat book, which you can fill with anything. You can fill with photographs, you can write, you can make pictures. You can work together with your child. You can write the text, the children can make pictures, or grandma can write a story in Chinese, and the child can, ask her what the story is and then make the pictures. So there's a lot of opportunities to interact when there's a book involved in so many different ways.